Hi everyone and welcome to the latest episode of Future Work World. I'm Barry Winkless, head of the Future of Work Institute. Future Work World is CPL's podcast for the now and next of work. I'm really excited today to be joined by Peter Lantry, Managing Director of Equinix Ireland. Peter, great to have you here.
Yeah, great to be here, Barry. Thanks for having me.
That's good. Welcome to the old Future Work World podcast. Finally good to get you onto the show.
Thank you, yeah.
Peter, I always like to start a question around your career journey to Equinix, right? Mm-hmm. You've had a really interesting one. I'm interested in your journey and then what that MD role actually means in Ireland for Equinix.
Yeah, no problem. So my background actually is in engineering. I'm a civil engineer. Went through college in UCD. I did a master's in UCD as well, management science, and also the MBA with them. So I did a few degrees to get me to where I am from a knowledge point of view. But the kind of underlying education I got, a lot of it was with a company called AirGrid, which is the transmission system operator in Ireland. I was with them for 17 years, a couple of stints with them. And it was really good to learn how everything works from an electrical point of view, looking at a utility, looking at all the connectivity that they were looking after from an electrical point of view. So I was learning about that. I kind of have a bit of a graph for, vocational work, things that are good for the country, good for the people of the country. So I enjoyed doing that, and I looked after their interconnector business as well. And their interconnector business to Wales is based on what's called high voltage direct current connection cables. They actually have a fibre cable that also goes with that. And it's interesting, I'm now dealing with those in my new job in Equinix. But it was a really good training ground where I was leading a team of people, driving a business forward within the AirGrid entity. But it was very much ring-fenced as a HVDC, high voltage direct current business unit. Yeah. And I also helped to get the one that we're building at the moment to France, the Celtic interconnector, up and running from a financial point of view and a project point of view. Okay. So it was good. It was an interesting few years there. And then I was hired by one of the suppliers, which is it was called ABB at the time and changed to Hitachi Energy while I was there. And I spent a couple of years with them and I was running their business in Ireland as the MD. And they asked me then, would you mind looking after the data center segment for Europe?
Oh, okay.
And I started.
That's where the connection came.
That's where the connection. Yeah. So I was looking after them for the best part of a year, looking after Europe. And then they said, well, can you take over the global data center footprint for us?
Was that at the early stage of the stuff here? Like
No, we would have been well into it. I mean, that would have been 5 years ago. Okay. Not that long ago. And we already had a very strong data center segment and ecosystem in Ireland. And in fact, I'd spent a lot of my time in AirGrid helping the large hyperscale players get connections to the grid. Okay. So I spent a good bit of time doing that. And they all needed large amounts of power, which is way above the norm for Ireland. It wasn't something we were used to, industry that used a lot of electricity. And it's something that was really well embraced, and we did a good job of it as a country. Yeah. And eventually it got to a point where the demand was so great that the grid operator, AirGrid, and ESP Networks had to say, hold on, we need to figure out how to do this in a sustainable way that allows us to grow with the data center segment. So that's what's happening at the moment. And I guess my career since leaving AirGrid has been in that space, helping to connect data centers globally to the grid operators, but also to help grow the businesses of the data centers themselves. So it's been exciting in that respect. But Equinix itself has been an amazing company to join.
Yeah, I was going to say it's right in the sweet spot, I would assume, of
your background. It really is.
Did they make the job for you? I wonder.
Yeah, it's really fortunate. I mean, given the nature of the industry and how close we now have to operate with grid operators and regulators and politicians, they're really intertwined and they're interdependent realistically at this stage. Yeah. My background helps me to put a bit of context on that, also to set expectations, because you can't build grid overnight. It takes a long time. I was working on a project in AirGrid 20 years ago, which still hasn't even started to be built. So you could be a long time waiting for things to be done. Yeah. And you have to bring the communities along with you. And that's something the data center segment is now getting very, very strong on and learning about, is how you bring the communities that you're in along with you as well. So there's skill sets around that. There's talent being developed in that space. And there's a lot of funds being put towards doing that as well, helping to explain, educate what we do, explain how we are helping to connect everything together.
Yeah, it's interesting because one of my, big areas of expertise, and what I find myself coming back to a lot is storytelling.
Yeah.
And, I know we spoke about this before, Peter, in different contexts. There's just standing back from all of this stuff, right? Obviously, we do a lot of work in AI and all this kind of stuff. But if I stand back from this stuff, it's a huge amount of opaqueness, shall we say, about all of this value chain that makes things like AI and data possible, right?
Yeah.
I would say if you're to ask the average person on the street about all of this kind of stuff, they kind of go, what's all this about? It's fair to say that given where we're going as a society, both in Ireland and the EU and beyond, it's really an important thing that we need to understand, right? Because, when I took all the conversations about energy and everything else that we're having at the moment, we need to really become more literate, right, and all this kind of stuff. What's your take on all of that?
It's so critical now for people in all areas of life actually to start to understand how use of AI and use of digital solutions can help them in their careers and in their personal lives and how they're going to grow with that. There's a new kind of skill set, which is the agility, the ability to change with things that are happening around you. That's a skill set that not many people are thinking about or trying to develop, but it's something you need to have. Especially in this new world of AI, it is changing everything that we're seeing in our personal work and within Equinix. There's what we call the digital Equinix brain, and it's an AI tool that's been taking everything in, all the information around the data centers that we have, the 280 plus data centers around the world, all the connectivity, all the customer requirements, and we're able to have much more informed discussions very, very quickly. But you can take out weeks and weeks of research and work from your day job by using AI in the right way.
Yeah.
So it's really going to change things. And we're lucky, I guess, within Equinix because the type of AI workloads that are going to be really interesting for companies, because now they've accepted they need to do this.
Yeah.
And they're investing in it. They're asking, okay, what kind of investments should we make?
Yeah.
And it's all about AI inference. It's all about usage of the AI in your real-time work, or, if you're driving a car and you want to have information coming to you real-time, or even if it's an autonomous car, or if you're in an airline and you want to make sure things are handled in a safe, secure way. Any of those types of industries, medical, pharmaceutical industries, all of these things we're trying to do research, they need that inference, AI inference, which is right at the edge. And that's what we look at.
Sorry, because you got me thinking about something there. I think for me, it's really, really interesting in terms of we take that enterprise organizational level, right? They're obviously at that point where they need to rethink, all of this stuff, around data and data proximity and all that. So what should they be thinking about, these you know what I mean? Because it seems to me so, I hate to use the phrase interconnected because you've already used the phrase interconnected, but it is so interconnected. How do those guys need to be thinking today about that future, right?
A lot of companies need to use multiple different services from different providers, right? It does need to be interconnected. So you can think of Equinix like a hub and spoke. So that we're the hub where everything comes together, and all the different network service providers, content providers, AI, neo clouds, all these new solutions, all the clouds, public clouds, they all come together with us.
Yeah.
And then they can use whatever platform customers want to use to help customers use and make the most of different services that are out there.
Yeah.
And AI services that are distributed now, they're distributed everywhere. And there's special expertise that you're seeing emerge now on the type of use of AI that makes sense in different ways.
Yeah.
And companies need to be able to pick and choose that. So they have to think about how they're going to access that. Do they build that kind of infrastructure themselves? No traditional data center or computer room would have been built for this type of power use that comes with the GPUs that are powering AI.
Yeah.
They're high energy use chips, and they cannot just be placed in any standard data center. They need to be in specially designed and built and operated and maintained data centers, including things like liquid cooling being available to them. And that's where they need, companies are now saying, okay, who can I ask for that? Do I go all in on the public cloud and I lose control, or do I come back to a sort of hybrid where I'm keeping my critical information, the information I need sovereignty over, in my own server systems in an Equinix data center, and then I use the public cloud or any of the other services for what I need in addition to that.
So in a way, Peter, you guys, apart from being that hub, I like that analogy, the hub of the spokes, you guys are kind of positioning yourselves as this advisor for I'm going to say the new world of work, if you want to call it that, because, at the end of the day, this is ultimately around how all of this new fancy autonomous stuff, right, happens in the working world, right? So it's an interesting position to be in.
Yeah, it certainly is. We have a lot of customers now that, and it would be kind of C-suite level customers coming in asking us about what is the best model to use for their needs. So strategically now, we're talking to our customers at that level.
Yeah.
And it's very much a free service that we would offer to advise on what's best for them. And we'd often actually come out with a conclusion that the best thing is maybe just go fully in with a public cloud provider if the model is simple enough for them to do that.
Yeah.
But often it comes back to having choice, having multiple options as to how you go about growing your business. If you want to grow into many, many different locations globally, how to go about doing that. Do you use managed services?
Yeah.
Do you actually put a physical footprint there, or do you outsource that as well?
Yeah.
How do you do it in a way that's efficient? And then how do you make sure that the types of people and the roles that you want to do the work of the business can be what you focus on, rather than trying to focus on infrastructure, digital infrastructure and architecture around that.
Yeah.
That's not an area that a lot of companies want to spend time and money on.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they do rely on us now for that type of advice. So we are very much we've moved into that advisory space now, which is good. We're not traditional infrastructure.
Yeah, so it's almost it's nearly an extension of an organization thinking strategically, right, about how they're going to evolve. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I think that's interesting. Just in terms of, just coming to an Ireland context for a moment, when you talk to customers in Ireland, right, I mean, are they thinking about data centers differently, or are you finding Equinix are part of that changing the way they think? Are they coming to you? In other words, are you finding you're still having to make them understand?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Yeah.
It's a bit of a mixture because we're at the kind of front face of it. So we see the best practice behaviors of like global companies that are doing this as part of their bread and butter, and they'd be looking at all of the research and development and innovations they can do on this. So Equinix is fortunate that we see that. We see where the improvements in performance and skill sets are coming from, and we're able to then prompt and support other customers in the same industry verticals.
Yeah.
And we'd be the best in the world at dealing with finance, for example. So we're able to talk to any of the banks or trading companies and explain what is working for other competitors of theirs. And they'll often, buy into that logic and try and do something similar, or they might take it another level. So there's a lot of opportunity there for us as Equinix in supporting that type of ongoing growth and development. And it's across every single industry vertical. I can't think of any business that doesn't need to optimize their digital solutions, use AI to help them. So there's a huge amount of opportunity for us, and we're growing into it. So we like to describe it as we were built for this moment. That's the way Adair Fox-Martin is an Irish woman. She's running the whole company globally. So she's a brilliant person, and she's been able to identify that, Equinix is really in that space now where it's going to be a cornerstone, I guess the backbone of everything that other companies need to do around the world to grow and develop. So it's a really interesting time.
Yeah, where preparation meets opportunity, is not the famous Hollywood kind of message.
Yeah.
Peter, I'm interested in Equinix in Ireland. Look, obviously there's an Irish aspect to all of this story, right? And you're obviously now the MD of Equinix in Ireland. Talk to me a bit about what you guys are doing in Ireland. What's the role of the Ireland operation in the broader context? 'Cause I think it's a really interesting story, and a lot of our listeners might be aware of what you guys are doing in Ireland.
Yeah, no problem. So Equinix is running 5 retail colocation sites, we call them, for customers. And more than 300 customers located in our retail data center sites. And we also have 2 what we call xScale sites, which are single tenant sites, larger footprint. And that's for a hyperscale player. And all of that together is connected. So we connect all that with what's called Equinix Fabric. And we do that globally. But in the Irish context, all 300 of those customers are connected together with what's called Equinix Fabric, and they can then use each other's services as they need to. So Ireland's become a real central hub for a lot of technology businesses as a result. Like Equinix buildings, the buildings that we own and operate, have been here since 1998.
Okay.
So we're long-term here, and we're continuously investing in that. So we look at the sustainability of how we operate. We look at how we can always improve the customer experience. We are making it much more self-service as well for customers. So now they can buy our digital services when they want to, and they can do it online in a portal. We recently acquired the BT data centers. There's 2 of those. They came on, and they're going live actually within the Equinix systems on Monday.
Oh wow!
So it's coming up quite soon.
Interesting times.
It is, yeah. And we also have a new office in the city centre. So I've been able to get us to invest in a new office in the city centre in Dublin, and that's also getting launched officially this month.
Fantastic.
And it's a great facility to have. It allows us to walk around to the different suppliers and also to their customers and even politicians, because we've very much gotten into that space now of education. As you said, it's about informing people about what's important. And we're really like that digital airport, that hub that everything has to come through.
Yeah.
And all of our customers say they need to be able to access more of what we do and to be able to optimize their own footprints and remove their own digital workloads from their own offices. They don't like having servers in their own offices anymore. Customers who are thinking ahead try to get out of that, and they know that they can do a much better job and it's actually cheaper and more sustainable to put their own digital equipment inside a co-location data center.
Gotcha.
They're much, much closer to the service providers straight away. They can connect to them. There's boundless connectivity is the way we describe it. So in other words, as much connectivity as you want, and you can ramp it up or down as much as you want. So customers love that, and they can do that on what we call Equinix Fabric as well. So Fabric connects, and all the customers then would use that as a tool to be able to just have a much, much faster, low latency, we call it. So immediate bandwidth. Yeah.
Hyper customization of all of this stuff. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. So any service you want. Like if you're in your office and you're using any applications at all of those come through an Equinix system, an Equinix data center over a network provider that's coming into your office. Yeah. And the beauty is you can choose from over 80 network providers now that come into us and decide which way you want to go and do it. So there's competition. It creates a good environment. It's really good for the economy. Yeah. We also had KPMG do a report for us recently, and it'll be published shortly on our website, which has highlighted that over 4% of GDP is being supported out of those 5 facilities that we use in Dublin. And the amount of energy that we use is very low because it's compared to the hyperscale players, we don't need to have quite as much power. Yeah. What we do is we connect everything together, and that's not as heavy on the workload. So it's a lot of networking equipment and that kind of thing. So it's good for the Irish economy, and it's also not very heavy on the energy use. So we're working together with the utilities to try and make sure we do the best possible thing to continue growing that out.
Really, really interesting. Just want to switch it and talk a little bit about skills, Peter. So we're in this world where, obviously AI and data infrastructure are becoming more tightly linked, right? So what are those, from your perspective and in your sector, what are those kind of skills you think are in demand, are going to be more in demand, because I think I always like to link it back to, ultimately, if I stand back from this as a sector, it's growing, it's exciting. There's only going to be more stuff happening. I know you guys are doing a huge amount of innovation. So, what are those kind of skills that we need to worry about, right? When we're talking about this new, I'm going to kind of, hyper-connected world. What are the kind of things that you're seeing in terms of what people will need? Yeah,
well, that's good. I mean, previously, people would have focused on learning how to write code and learning to do things that are automatable, let's put it that way. Yeah. And all of that is going to go away. You're not going to have to know how to do it, but you have to know how to ask for what you need in future. So a lot of that now will be delivered for you kind of in an instant using AI. So that's kind of a different skill set focus immediately from a training and development point of view. The other one that's interesting is from a physical hardware point of view. You need people who are going to be able to build out these things. Yeah. You need really good utilities players, people in AirGrid and ASP networks. You need strong teams there that can align and build out. You need plumbers for all the liquid cooling and the solutions and the cooling systems and data centers and all of the kind of physical manual work that goes with that on an ongoing basis. I mean,
that's where you hear your voice of your mother in the back of your head saying, you need to go into the trades.
The trades, absolutely. Exactly, I mean, we have quite a lot of apprenticeships and internships in our office, and we do it globally, but it is really, it's quite stark. When you look at it, you go, the actual demand for those skill sets is huge. So there's an opportunity there for sure. But then you also need all of the traditional skill sets that people need. But, there's going to be this interesting dynamic now where, people at junior levels within their businesses and legal firms and medical firms, things like that, they have to learn a lot of what's already available in AI in order to be able to appropriately utilize that when they're more sophisticated in their careers. So how that interacts with people's work-life balance, I don't know. Yeah. But it could be an interesting change in how people do it. So that change, that ability to adjust
Yeah.
That agility quotient, I guess. That's the new term.
Obviously, I love I've got this thing in my head now, you know, even the most sophisticated infrastructure needs plumbing. There's something you know, satisfying about that, isn't there?
Yeah,
you know,
there is,
in this really ultra modern world,
we
still need these types of core skills.
Absolutely,
there's a nice story in that, I think, in terms of how this sector is growing. And
it certainly is.
Yeah.
And I think services in general as well. You're going to find that human experience is going to become more and more valued.
Yeah.
So that area of work is going to become where a lot of the interesting work will be in the future, I think.
Leads me kind of to a couple of questions I want to ask Peter before we finish the interview. I'm interested in, look, you're also the MD of the Ireland operation. I'm interested in the type of culture you're trying to build here, you know, because obviously you mentioned the human experience thing, you know, you need a motivated, engaged group of people to make these visions a reality.
Yeah, that's it.
And then a kind of connected question, but different, is I want to know a little bit about your leadership style. You know, if I was to say, how could I sum up Peter's leadership style in 3 words? Right, what would they be? So let's just start with the easy one first, which is the cultural one, and that'll help you think about the 3 before you end. Yeah, because I am genuinely interested, you know, because in many ways you're in an exciting sector. You know, it's growing. It's a field of opportunity, right? So, you know, you can kind of park that a little bit. But I am interested genuinely, you know, what are you trying to create? You know, when you come into that new office and, you know, what does it feel like? What are you trying to get there?
Yeah, so it's a really good question. We have 170 people working for us in Ireland directly, and another 200 as well that are indirectly working for us, so kind of contractors and the like. So the culture we try to create, and it's a globally focused one as well, is we call it the magic of Equinix. And that sounds corny, but it's a genuine thing that you begin to realize is there when you start to work with the team. So when I went in to Equinix 3.5 years ago, what I learned very quickly is that there's a really close environment and really good approach to engaging with communities, charities, social events, trying to help each other out and create an opportunity, because you're in different buildings, right? You're running different data center buildings. Of bringing all of those people together as a team and making them feel like they're part of one organism that is really moving in a really positive way. We're growing all the time, but also in a way that is giving back to society, is delivering something which is a purpose. And this idea of connecting everyone and bridging the digital divide and supporting everybody to be connected globally. That's a really interesting and strong value-driven purpose for us.
Yeah.
So we have strong values. We have what we call these employee engagement networks. We have them for all different parts of society that might be marginalized. Yeah. And we also have the We Are Equinix group within Equinix, which allows people to participate. That's very well funded and managed by the team. And it's one that allows everybody to get involved. So participation is key. It's all voluntary. And then when you do volunteer as well, you can get up to $2,500 a year that you can donate to charities of your choice. So for every hour you do, you get $20 allocated to you. And you can do that in anything. If you're coaching your GAA team, you can put that down as the time you've spent. And it's really good because it allows everybody to get behind different motivation. For the Children's Hospital, there's the Ronald McDonald House that's going with it. And we were able to donate, I think, up to 50,000 last year because everybody got behind a push. So it's good. It's a great atmosphere. But there's on top of that, there's this constant minding each other, looking after each other, asking each other how you're doing. And just, through change, which is what this is, you're going to have lots of challenges. You'll have some attrition. You'll have people a little bit stressed out. So you have to look after each other as well and make sure that the right kind of balance of work and life is in play. So that's another part of it too, is making sure people get the time that they need to do what they need in their own lives. So we have a flexible working environment as well, where you can be in the office 2 days a week, but it's very much it's not monitored in any kind of formal, strict way. It's just, you come in, you do your job, and if you're doing the job you're supposed to do, everybody's happy. Yeah, it's a trust-based business.
I can see you're trying to lengthen out the answer before you get to the three leadership principles. Everybody does this, by the way. No, I am genuinely surprised because you said to me before, you've been in this value chain for a long time, in this kind of sector. So I'm genuinely interested in those principles. So go on, throw them out there.
I think purposeful would be one really important word. And the reason that's important for me is that everybody needs to have that value-driven purposeful approach to their career. Otherwise, it can be, you're coming in to do your job and going home again, but you don't feel like you're adding value.
Yeah.
So that's purposeful. I also is trust-based.
Yeah.
So from a leadership style point of view, I will always work on the basis that everybody's trying to do the right thing.
Yeah.
And that they're looking at for the interests of the business and not just themselves, and that they're trying to do the best for the whole team. So that's that kind of trust-based leadership. And then on top of that, I guess it's trying to lead by example. So it's if I'm pushing someone to do some work or a team to do some work for me, I will be there just as much as they are, and I'll put the effort into the same degree as they have to put the effort in, and they'll see that themselves. So it's kind of leading by example, and that's something that is important to me as well. It comes from years of seeing how other people respond. Yeah. If you're not going to do that, you're going to lose the room. Let's put it that way.
No,
I think it's an important thing to do. Yeah.
Well, Peter, I can't think of a better way to end the interview than your
great.
leadership principles, and it definitely shines through you as an individual. So I do appreciate your candor. Thanks very much, Peter. Very much appreciate it. And talk to you soon.
Thanks, Barry. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much, Peter, for a fascinating interview. That's the end of the show. Please follow us on all of the popular channels. Thanks very much, guys. Bye-bye.